Hi there and welcome. So glad to have you joining me today. This is our third day reading through the book, The Magic of Oz by L. Frank Baum. If you remember yesterday's reading, we had Trot, Cap'n Bill, and the Glass Cat decide to go in search of the magic flower to give Ozma for her birthday. Dorothy and the Wizard decide that they're going to make a cake and with magic put tiny monkeys into it to provide entertainment and then serve the cake to the guests at Ozma's birthday party. So they are off to the Gillikin Forest to look for those monkeys. So that's where we're picking it up today. We're going to read chapters 7 through 9, and this is chapter 7, The Forest of Gugu. In the central western part of the Gillikin country is a great tangle of trees called Gugu Forest. It is the biggest forest in all of Oz and stretches miles and miles in every direction, north, south, east, and west. Adjoining it, on the east side, is a range of rugged mountains covered with underbrush and small twisted trees. You can find this place by looking at the map of the land of Oz. Gugu Forest is the home of the wild beasts that inhabit Oz. These are seldom disturbed in their leafy haunts because there is no reason why Oz people should go there, except on rare occasions. And most parts of the forest have never been seen by any eyes but the eyes of the beasts who make their home there. The biggest beasts inhabit the great forest, while the smaller ones live mostly in the mountain underbrush at the east. Now, you must know that there are laws in the forests, as well as in every other place, and these laws are made by the beasts themselves, and are necessary to keep them from fighting and tearing one another to pieces. In Gugu Forest there is a king, an enormous yellow leopard called Gugu, after whom the forest is named. And this king has 3 other beasts to advise him in keeping the laws and maintaining order: Bru the bear, Lu the unicorn, and Rango the gray ape, who are known as the king's counselors. All these are fierce and ferocious beasts, and hold their high offices because they are more intelligent and more feared than their fellows. Since Oz became a fairyland, no man, woman, or child ever dies in that land, nor is anyone ever sick. Likewise, the beasts of the forest never die, so that long years add to their cunning and wisdom, as well as to their size and strength. It is possible for beasts, or even people, to be destroyed, but the task is so difficult that it is seldom attempted. Because it is free from sickness and death is one reason why Oz is a fairyland. But it is doubtful whether those who come to Oz from the outside world, as Dorothy and Button-Bright and Trot and Cap'n Bill and the Wizard did, will live forever and cannot be injured. Even Ozma is not sure about this, and so the guests of Ozma from other lands are always carefully protected from any danger, so as to be on the safe side. In spite of the laws of the forest, there are often fights among the beasts. Some of them have lost an eye or an ear, or even had a leg torn off. The king and the king's counselors always punish those who start a fight, but so fierce is the nature of some beasts that they will at times fight in spite of the laws and punishment. Over this vast wild forest of Gugu flew 2 eagles one morning, and near the center of the jungle, the eagles alighted on a branch of a tall tree. "Here is the place for us to begin our work," said one, who was Ruggedo the gnome. "Do many beasts live here?" asked Kiki Aru, the other eagle. "The forest is full of them," said the gnome. "There are enough beasts right here to enable us to conquer the people of Oz, if we can get them to consent to join us. To do that, we must go among them and tell them our plans, so we must now decide on what shapes we had better assume while in the forest." "I suppose we must take the shapes of beasts," said Kiki. "Of course, but that requires some thought. All kinds of beasts live here, and a yellow leopard is king. If we become leopards, the king will be jealous of us. If we take the forms of some other beasts, we shall not command proper respect." "I wonder if the beasts will attack us?" asked Kiki. "I'm a gnome and immortal, so nothing can hurt me," replied Ruggedo. "I was born in the land of Oz, so nothing can hurt me," said Kiki. "But in order to carry out our plans, we must win the favor of all the animals of the forest." "Then what shall we do?" asked Kiki. "Let us mix the shapes of several beasts, so we will not look like any one of them," proposed the wily old gnome. "Let us have the heads of lions, the bodies of monkeys, the wings of eagles, and the tails of wild asses, with knobs of gold on the end of them instead of bunches of hair." "Won't that make a queer combination?" inquired Kiki. "The queerer, the better," declared Ruggedo. "All right," said Kiki. "You stay here, and I'll fly away to another tree and transform us both. Then we'll climb down our trees and meet in the forest." "No," said the gnome, "we mustn't separate. You must transform us while we are together." "I won't do that," asserted Kiki firmly. "You're trying to get my secret, and I won't let you." The eyes of the other eagle flashed angrily, but Ruggedo did not dare insist. If he offended this boy, he might have to remain an eagle always, and he wouldn't like that. Someday, he hoped to be able to learn the secret word of the magical transformations. But just now, he must let Kiki have his own way. "All right," he said gruffly, "do as you please." So Kiki flew to a tree that was far enough distant so that Ruggedo could not overhear him and said, "I want Ruggedo, the gnome, and myself to have the heads of the lions, bodies of monkeys, wings of eagles, and the tails of wild asses, with knobs of gold on the end of them, instead of bunches of hair. Pyrus Quickskull." He pronounced the magic word in the proper manner, and at once his form changed to the one he had described. He spread his eagle's wings, and finding they were strong enough to support his monkey body and lion head, he flew swiftly to the tree where he had left Ruggedo. The gnome was also transformed, and was climbing down the tree, because the branches all around him were so thickly entwined that there was no room between them to fly. Kiki quickly joined his comrade, and it did not take them long to reach the ground. Chapter 8. The Lymon Eags Make Trouble. There had been trouble in the forest of Gugu that morning. Chippo, the wild boar, had bitten the tail off Arx the giraffe, while the latter had his head among the leaves of a tree, eating his breakfast. Arx kicked with his heels and struck Tirip, the great kangaroo, who had a new baby in her pouch. Tirip knew it was the wild boar's fault, so she knocked him over with one powerful blow, and then ran away to escape Chippo's sharp tusks. In the chase that followed, a giant porcupine stuck 50 sharp quills into the boar, and a chimpanzee in a tree threw a coconut at the porcupine and jammed its head into its body. All this was against the laws of the forest, and when the excitement was over, Gugu the Leopard King called his royal counselors together and decided how best to punish the offenders. The 4 lords of the forest were holding solemn council in the small clearing when they saw 2 strange beasts approaching them, beasts the like of which they had never seen before. Not one of the 4, however, relaxed his dignity or showed by a movement that he was startled. The great leopard crouched at full length upon a fallen tree trunk. Bru the bear sat on his haunches before the king. Rango the gray ape stood with his muscular arms folded, and Lu the unicorn reclined, much as a horse does, between his fellow counselors. With one consent, they remained silent, eyeing with steadfast looks the intruders, who were making their way into their forest domain. "Well met, brothers," said one of the strange beasts, coming to a halt beside the group, while his comrade, with hesitation, lagged behind. "We are not brothers," returned the gray ape sternly. "Who are you, and how came you to the forest of Gugu?" "We are 2 Lymon eggs," said Ruggedo, inventing the name. "Our home is in Sky Island, and we have come to Earth to warn the forest beasts that the people of Oz are about to make war upon them and enslave them, so that they will become beasts of burden forever after and obey only the will of their two-legged masters. A low roar of anger arose from the council of beasts. "Who's going to do that?" asked Lou the unicorn, in a high, squeaky voice, at the same time rising to his feet. "The people of Oz," said Ruggedo. "But what will we be doing?" inquired the unicorn. "That's what I've come to talk to you about." "You needn't talk. We'll fight the Oz people," screamed the unicorn. "We'll smash 'em, we'll trample 'em, we'll gore 'em, we'll silence," growled Gugu the king, and Lou obeyed, although still trembling with wrath. The cold, steady gaze of the leopard wandered over the two strange beasts. "The people of Oz," he said, "have not been our friends. They have not been our enemies. They have let us alone, and we have let them alone. There is no reason for war between us. They have no slaves. They could not use us as slaves if they could conquer us. I think you are telling us lies, you strange Lymon. You mixed up beast who are neither one thing nor another." "Oh, on my word, it's the truth," protested the gnome in the beast's shape. "I wouldn't lie for the world. Silence!" again growled Gugu the king, and somehow even Ruggedo was abashed and obeyed the edict. "What do you say, Bru?" asked the king, turning to the great bear, who had until now said nothing. "How does the mixed beast know that what he says is true?" asked the bear. "Why, I can fly, you know, having the wings of an eagle," exclaimed the gnome. "And I and my comrade yonder," turning to Kiki, "flew into a grove in Oz, and there we heard the people telling how they will make ropes to snare you beasts, and then they will surround this forest and all other forests and make you prisoners. So we came here to warn you, for being beasts ourselves, although we live in the sky, we are your friends." The leopard's lip curled and showed his enormous teeth, sharp as needles. He turned to the gray ape. "What do you think, Rango?" he asked. "Send these mixed beasts away, your majesty," replied the gray ape. "They are mischief makers." "Don't do that! Don't do that!" cried the unicorn nervously. "The stranger said he would tell us what to do. Let him tell us then. Are we fools not to heed a warning?" Gugu the king turned to Ruggedo. "Speak, stranger," he commanded. "Well," said the gnome, "it's this way. The land of Oz is a fine country. The people of Oz have many good things. Houses with soft beds, all sorts of nice-tasting food, pretty clothes, lovely jewels, and many other things that beasts know nothing of. Here, in the dark forests, the poor beasts have hard work to get enough to eat and to find a bed to rest in. But the beasts are better than the people, and why should they not have all the good things the people have? So I propose that before the Oz people have the time to make all these ropes to snare you with, that all we beasts get together and march against the Oz people and capture them. Then the beasts will become the masters and the people their slaves." "What good would that do us?" asked Bru the bear. "It would save you from slavery for one thing, and you can enjoy all the fine things the Oz people have." "Beasts wouldn't know what to do with these things people use," said the gray ape. "But this is only part of my plan," insisted the gnome. "Listen to the rest of it. We two Lymon Eags are powerful magicians. When you have conquered the Oz people, we will transform them all into beasts and send them to live in the forest. We will then transform all the beasts into people, so they can enjoy all the wonderful delights of the Emerald City." For a moment, no beast spoke. Then the king said, "Prove it." "Prove what?" asked Ruggedo. "Prove that you can transform us. If you are a magician, transform the unicorn into a man. Then we will believe you. If you fail, we will destroy you." "All right," said the gnome, "but I'm tired, so I'll let my comrade make the transformation." Kiki Aru had stood back from the circle, but he had heard all that was said. He now realized that he must make good Ruggedo's boast, so he retreated to the edge of the clearing and whispered the magic word. Instantly, the unicorn became a fat, chubby little man, dressed in the purple Gillikin costume, and it was hard to tell which was the more astonished, the king, the bear, the ape, or the former unicorn. "It's true!" shouted the man-beast. "Good gracious, look what I am! It's wonderful!" The king of the beasts now addressed Ruggedo in a more friendly tone. "We must believe your story, since you have given us proof of your power," said he. "But why, if you are so great a magician, cannot you conquer the Oz people without our help, and so save us the trouble?" "Alas," replied the crafty gnome, "no magician is able to do everything. The transformations are easy to us because we are Lymonules, but we cannot fight or conquer even such weak creatures as the Oz people. But we will stay with you and advise and help you, and we will transform all the Oz people into beasts when the time comes, and all the beasts into people." Gugu the king turned to his counselors. "How shall we answer this friendly stranger?" he asked. Lou, the former unicorn, was dancing around and cutting capers like a clown. "On my word, your majesty," he said, "this being a man is more fun than being a unicorn." "You look like a fool," said the gray ape. "Well, I feel fine," declared the man-beast. "I think I prefer to be a bear," said Big Brew. "I was born a bear, and I know a bear's ways, so I am satisfied to live as a bear lives." "That," said the old gnome king, "is because you know nothing better. When we have conquered the Oz people, and you become a man, you'll be glad of it." The immense leopard rested his chin on the log and seemed thoughtful. "The beasts of the forest must decide this matter for themselves," he said. "Go you, Rango the gray ape, and tell your monkey tribe to order all the forest beasts to assemble in the great clearing at sunrise tomorrow. When all are gathered together, this mixed-up beast, who is a magician, shall talk to them and tell them what he has told us. Then, if they decide to fight the Oz people who have declared war on us, I will lead the beasts to battle." Rango the gray ape turned at once and glided swiftly through the forest on his mission. The bear gave a grunt and walked away. Gugu the king rose and stretched himself. Then he said to Ruggedo, "Meet us at sunrise tomorrow," and with stately stride vanished among the trees. The man unicorn, left alone with the strangers, suddenly stopped his foolish prancing. "You'd better make me a unicorn again," he said. "I like being a man, but the forest beasts won't know I'm their friend, Lou, and they might tear me in pieces before the morning." So Kiki changed him back to his former shape, and the unicorn departed to join his people. Ruggedo the gnome was much pleased with his success. "Tomorrow," he said to Kiki Aru, "we'll win over these beasts and set them to fight and conquer the Oz people. Then I will have my revenge on Ozma and Dorothy and all the rest of my enemies." "But I am doing all the work," said Kiki. "Never mind, you are going to be King of Oz," promised Ruggedo. "Will the big leopard let me be king?" asked the boy anxiously. The gnome came close to him and whispered, "If Gugu the leopard opposes us, you will transform him into a tree, and then he will be helpless." "Of course," agreed Kiki, and he said to himself, "I shall also transform this deceitful gnome into a tree, for he lies, and I cannot trust him." Chapter 9. The Isle of the Magic Flower. The Glass Cat was a good guide and led Trot and Cap'n Bill by straight and easy paths through all the settled part of the Munchkin country, and then into the north section, where there were few houses, and finally through a wild country where there were no houses or paths at all. But the walking was not difficult, and at last they came to the edge of a forest and stopped there to make camp and sleep until morning. From the branches of trees, Cap'n Bill made a tiny house that was just big enough for the little girl to crawl into and lie down. But first, they ate some of the food Trot had carried in the basket. "Don't you want some too?" she asked the Glass Cat. "No," answered the creature. "I suppose you'll hunt round and catch a mouse," remarked Cap'n Bill. "Me? Catch a mouse? Why should I do that?" inquired the Glass Cat. "Why, then you could eat it," said the sailor man. "I beg to inform you," returned the Crystal Tabby, "that I do not eat mice. Being transparent, so anyone can see through me, I'd look nice, wouldn't I, with a common mouse inside me? But the fact is, I haven't any stomach or other machinery that would permit me to eat things. The careless magician who made me didn't think I'd need to eat, I suppose." "Don't you ever get hungry or thirsty?" asked Trot. "Never. I don't complain, you know, at the way I'm made, for I've never yet seen any living thing as beautiful as I am. I have the handsomest brains in the world. They're pink, and you can see 'em work." "I wonder," said Trot thoughtfully, as she ate her bread and jam, "if my brains whirl around in the same way yours do." "No, not the same way, surely," returned the Glass Cat, "for in that case they'd be as good as my brains, except that they're hidden under a thick, bony skull." "Brains," remarked Cap'n Bill, "is all kinds and work different ways. But I've noticed that them as thinks that their brains is best is often mistook." Trot was a little disturbed by sounds from the forest that night, for many beasts seemed to be prowling among the trees. But she was confident Cap'n Bill would protect her from harm, and in fact, no beast ventured from the forest to attack them. And at daybreak they were up again, and after a simple breakfast, Cap'n Bill said to the Glass Cat, "Up anchor, mate, and let's forge ahead. I don't suppose we're far from that magic flower, are we?" "Not far," answered the transparent one, as it led the way into the forest, "but it may take you some time to get to it." Before long they reached the bank of a river. It was not very wide at this place, but they followed the banks in a northerly direction, and it gradually broadened. Suddenly the blue-green leaves of the trees changed to a purple hue, and Trot noticed this and said, "I wonder what made the colors change like that." "It's because we have left the Munchkin country and entered the Gillikin country," explained the Glass Cat. "It's also a sign that our journey is nearly ended." The river made a sudden turn, and after the travelers had passed around the bend, they saw that the stream had now become as broad as a small lake, and in the center of the lake they beheld a little island, not more than 50 feet in extent either way. Something glittered in the middle of this tiny island, and the Glass Cat paused on the bank and said, "There is the golden flower pot containing the magic flower, which is very curious and beautiful. If you can get to the island, your task is ended, except to carry the thing home with you." Cap'n Bill looked at the broad expanse of water and began to whistle a low, quavering tune. Trot knew that whistle meant that the captain was thinking. The old sailor didn't look at the island as much as he looked at the trees upon the bank where they stood. Presently he took from the big pocket of his coat an axe blade wound in an old cloth to keep the sharp edge from cutting his clothing. Then, with a large pocket knife, he cut a small limb from the tree and whittled it into the handle for his axe. "Sit down, Trot," he advised the girl as he worked. "I've got quite a job ahead of me now, for I've got to build us a raft." "What do we need a raft for, Cap'n?" "Why, to take us to the island. We can't walk under the water in the river bed as the Glass Cat did, so we must float on top of the water." "Can you make a raft, Cap'n Bill?" "Of course, Trot, if you give me time." The little girl sat down on a log and gazed at the island of the magic flower. Nothing else seemed to grow on the tiny island. There was no tree, no shrub, no grass, even as far as she could make out from that distance. But the gold pot glittered in the rays of the sun, and Trot could catch glimpses of the glowing colors above it, as the magic flower changed from one sort to another. "When I was here before," remarked the Glass Cat, lazily reclining at the girl's feet, I saw 2 Kallidas on this very bank where they had come to drink." "What are Kallidas?" asked the girl. "The most powerful and ferocious beasts in all Oz. This forest is their especial home, and so there are few other beasts to be found, except monkeys. The monkeys are spry enough to keep out of the way of the fierce Kallidas, which attack all other animals and often fight among themselves." "Did they try to fight you when you saw them?" asked Trot, getting very much excited. "Yes, they sprang upon me in an instant, but I lay flat on the ground so I wouldn't get my legs broken by the great weight of the beasts. And when they tried to bite me, I laughed at them and jeered them until they were frantic with rage, for they nearly broke their teeth on my hard glass. So after a time, they discovered they could not hurt me and went away. It was great fun. I hope they don't come here again to drink, not while we're here anyhow," returned the girl, "for I'm not made of glass, nor is Cap'n Bill, and if those bad beasts bit us, we'd get hurt." Cap'n Bill was cutting from the trees some long stakes, making them sharp at one end, and leaving a crotch at the other end. These were to bind the logs of his raft together. He had fashioned several, and was just finishing another, when the Glass Cat cried, "Look out! There's a Kallida coming toward us!" Trot jumped up, greatly frightened, and looked at the terrible animal, as if fascinated by its fierce eyes, for the Kallida was looking at her too, and its look wasn't at all friendly. But Cap'n Bill called to her, "Wade into the river, Trot, up to your knees, and stay there." She obeyed him at once. The sailor man hobbled forward, the stake in one hand and his axe in the other, and got between the girl and the beast, which sprang upon him with a growl of defiance. Cap'n Bill moved pretty slowly sometimes, but now he was quick as could be. As the Kallida sprang toward him, he struck out his wooden leg, and the point of it struck the beast between its eyes and sent it rolling upon the ground. Before it could get upon its feet again, the sailor pushed the sharp stake right through its body, and then, with the flat side of the axe, he hammered the stake as far into the ground as it would go. By this means he captured the great beast and made it harmless, for try as it would, it could not get away from the stake that held it. Cap'n Bill knew he could not kill the Kallida, for no living thing in Oz could be killed. So he stood back and watched the beast wriggle and growl and paw the earth with its sharp claws. Then, satisfied it could not escape, he told Trot to come out of the water again and dry her wet shoes and stockings in the sun. "Are you sure he can't get away?" she asked. "I'd bet a cookie on it," said Cap'n Bill. So Trot came ashore and took off her shoes and stockings and laid them on the log to dry, while the sailor man resumed his work on the raft. The Kallida, realizing after many struggles that it could not escape, now became quiet, but it said in a harsh, snarling voice, "I suppose you think you're clever to pin me to the ground in this manner, but when my friends, the other Kallidas, come here, they'll tear you to pieces for treating me this way." "Perhaps," remarked Cap'n Bill coolly, as he chopped at the logs, "and perhaps not. When are your folks coming here?" "I don't know," admitted the Kallida, "but when they do come, you can't escape them." "If they hold off long enough, I'll have my raft ready," said Cap'n Bill. "What are you going to do with the raft?" inquired the beast. "We're going over to that island to get the magic flower." The huge beast looked at him in surprise a moment. Then it began to laugh. The laugh was a good deal like a roar, and it had a cruel and derisive sound. But it was a laugh nevertheless. "Good," said the Kallida. "Good, very good. I'm glad you're going to get the magic flower. But what will you do with it?" "We're going to take it to Ozma as a present on her birthday." The Kallida laughed again, and then became sober. "If you can get to the land on your raft before my people can catch you," it said, "you will be safe from us. We can swim like ducks, so the girl couldn't have escaped me by getting into the water. But Kallidas don't go to that island over there." "Why not?" asked Trot. The beast was silent. Tell us the reason, urged Cap'n Bill. Well, it's the Isle of the Magic Flower, answered the Kaleida, and we don't care much for magic. If you hadn't had a magic leg instead of a meat one, you couldn't have knocked me over so easily and struck this wooden pin through me. I've been to the Magic Isle, said the Glass Cat, and I've watched the magic flower bloom, and I'm sure it's too pretty to be left in that lonely place where only beasts prowl it, and no one sees it. So we're going to take it away to the Emerald City. I don't care, the beast replied in a surly tone. We Kaleidas would be just as contented if there wasn't a flower in our forest. What good are these things, anyhow? Don't you like pretty things? Asked Trot. No. You ought to admire my pink banes, anyway, declared the Glass Cat. They're beautiful, and you can see 'em work. The beast only growled in reply, and Cap'n Bill, now cut all his logs to a proper size, began to roll them to the water's edge and fasten them together. That's the end of Chapter 9 and our reading for today. I hope you're enjoying the book. We are getting a number of different threads going. We have Trot and Cap'n Bill trying to get the flower and now potentially being stalked by Kaleidas. We have Kiki Aru and the Gnome King trying to get the animals to fight Oz. And we will also have Dorothy and the wizard trying to find monkeys in the forest. So let's come back tomorrow, see what other adventures our friends get into, and we'll see what happens in the rest of this book. Until then, I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day.